Welcome. Today we are digging into a really challenging idea from the writer Xu Feng. It basically asks one simple question. How do you actually know if you've improved yourself? And the answer we're going to explore might just surprise you, because it suggests the real test has nothing to do with being alone.
So first up, let's talk about the illusion of growth. We're going to take a hard look at what we think self-improvement is and why our source today argues it might not be the real deal at all.
Okay, so here's the big question, right? You read, you meditate, you do all that reflection, but have you actually changed? Has your spiritual nature become more perfect? The argument we're exploring today suggests that our usual ways of measuring this, they just don't cut it.
This really frames our usual thinking perfectly, doesn't it? We see personal growth as this quiet, solitary thing, but what if the real journey, the actual test of our character, is something way louder and, well, a lot more interactive? What exactly fills in those question marks?
This brings us to a really critical point, that gap between the enlightened person we say we are and the person who actually shows up when things get tough.
An armchair strategist. I love that term. This is what Xu Feng calls it. He argues that so much of what we call spiritual cultivation is just talk. It's all theory, no practice. Words without any action. It sounds amazing, but it's completely untested by the real world.
Just think about all these things we use to measure growth, how many books you've read, how eloquently you can speak. And sure, they can be impressive, but the source here says they are completely insufficient. They don't prove a single thing about the actual state of your soul.
So, the crucial point here is motivation. Why are we saying all these beautiful things? Is it to guide our own behavior, or are we just, as the text says, fishing for fame? The problem comes when our fancy speeches completely fall apart the second we face a real-world problem.
All right, so if sitting alone and speaking beautifully isn't the true measure, then what is? Well, the author proposes something radical and maybe a little intimidating. And there it is. That's the core idea, the central thesis of this whole thing. To truly know yourself, to actually verify if you've grown, you have to live among other people. And not just visit, not just interact here and there, but truly participate in a shared, collective life. It's the ultimate spiritual laboratory.
Now, why is this so effective? Well, because there's simply nowhere to hide. When you're part of a collective, your true nature, your real moral character, is put right under a microscope. It's reflected, like the author says, incisively and vividly for everyone to see.
Here is a perfect everyday example. At home, you might keep your bathroom totally spotless. Of course you do. But what about the shared public toilet in the collective? How you behave there says way more about your character than your private tidiness ever could.
And the same logic applies right here. We're all pretty frugal when we're the ones paying the bills. But what happens when the resources are shared? When it's the collective's water, the collective's electricity? Does that thriftiness just vanish? This is a direct test of selfishness versus selflessness.
Okay, let's go a layer deeper, because this test isn't just about toilets and electricity bills. It's about the very core of what it means to be a spiritual person. Love.
The author completely reframes the idea of love here. It's not some feeling you talk about. It's not a theory you write an article on. It is an action that you demonstrate when things get real. It's so easy to talk about love. It's incredibly hard to live it, especially when you're under pressure.
So this becomes the ultimate challenge, doesn't it? Collective life is constantly forcing you to answer this question, not with your words, but with your actions. Do you treat the needs and the comfort and the resources of others with the exact same care you give your own?
This table just lays it all out so clearly. A truly beautiful soul is consistent. They bring peace whether they're alone, with one other person, or in a huge crowd. But a flawed soul? They might seem fine on their own, but as you add social pressure, the cracks start to show. They run into trouble, and eventually they become the source of the disputes themselves.
So, what's the ultimate takeaway from this intense, pretty much unavoidable test of our character? What's the final verdict here?
The argument is that this whole process, it isn't just a good idea, it's essential. It's like tempering steel. The pressures and the friction of living with other people are exactly what's needed to forge a truly perfected soul. You just can't get there on your own.
And right here, the stakes are raised as high as they can possibly go. This isn't just about being a better person in this life. According to Xu Feng, your ability to be unselfish, which is proven by this collective life test, is directly tied to your ultimate spiritual destiny.
At the end of the day, Your true self isn't who you are when you're alone, meditating in a quiet room. Your true self is revealed in how you act when your choices about cleanliness, about resources, about love, directly impact every single person around you.
And that brings us to the final thought we want to leave you with. If you had to step into this ultimate test tomorrow, fully immersed in a collective life where every single action was visible, what would it reveal about you? It's a challenging question, for sure, but it's one that's absolutely worth considering. Thanks for joining us for this one.